So I just wanted to start off by getting your thoughts on Eddie Bernice Johnson.
Yeah, I think we're all gonna be missing her, to say the least. There are people that keep saying things like, she's the only congresswoman I've ever known. Until here recently, we got you. And, people have stories for decades. I just got done talking to someone that talked to me about working on her first campaign for the state house. People remember these moments, and that is because she really did impact everyone's life that she ever had the opportunity to touch. As relates to her as a public servant, I don't know of anyone else personally that has dedicated 50 years of their life to service to something greater than themselves. It is one of the most selfless things that you can do is to serve in public service. And the fact that she did it for 50 years is something that just doesn't happen every day. It tells you that she wasn't just your run of the mill politician. She was someone who really had a bigger and deeper calling when it came to service. She believed in this work. And I often kid about the fact that she had been retiring for a decade. Um, and when she called me, I did not believe it because everyone knew that she was always retiring, but she hadn't retired. And you know what? She hadn't retired because she just didn't feel like she had found the person. And that made her fearful. We would have talks, and she would tell me, I should have retired a long time ago. But she was so nervous about leaving this district to someone who wasn't going to do right by it that she continued to serve. And even deciding to ultimately retire this time, it was so difficult because so many community members and pastors were asking her, please just give us one more term. And she said, I think I found the person. I think I can finally go home and spend time with my grandkids and my great grands. And I think I can relax a little bit. And that just goes to show you the type of person that she was. She always put others before herself.
So when you got the call, at that time you're a Texas House representative, a freshman representative. How surprising for you was it to get that call?
Surprising ain't the worst. I literally thought I was being punked. It was like, where are the cameras? The cameras are coming out. Because here's the deal. A lot of people don't know, but the dean of the Dallas delegation, Yvonne Davis, that was one of her former employees, Royce West, whose mother worked at the Dallas VA with her, and she tapped Royce West to succeed her in the Texas Senate. She had some people that had worked directly under her tutelage. She had people that she had specifically targeted for different things that she had longer relationships with. And I thought, there's no way she wants the freshman. And as we had some of these late night calls and talks, one of the things that she said she consistently heard about was that I had a work ethic about myself, that I worked really hard. And she said she got to see it firsthand as we were working together on redistricting and the maps. But she also said that she wanted someone that had a heart for the people. She said some people viewed this job as a glamour job, and it is nothing glamorous about it. And I must agree. It is a lot of hard work. And so she also said it was okay that we weren't necessarily carbon copies of one another. She just wanted somebody that she felt like had a pure heart for the people and also had some level of experience. So, having served in the Texas House, she knew what it was to legislate. She knew that that would form at least a basis for not only legislating, but also constituent casework. She was very, very big on you've got to make sure you take care of the constituents. And so she said, you know what, I think you can do it. And I don't know that I was convinced when she initially called me. But definitely as we talked more, as she educated me more, I became convinced that I could at least win the election. But I knew that I would still have a lot of work to do. And I know that I still have a lot of work to do if I'm going to ever be considered someone who could actually fill her shoes.
Tell me about your last conversation with her.
I don't remember my last conversation with her because, most people don't know that she's been down for a little bit. She had a surgery, and I'm sure that will be talked about in greater length at some other point in time. And so, really, I hadn't been able to talk to her very much recently, and I was aware that this was most likely coming, um, for sure, based on everything that I knew. But I will tell you, the last conversation that I remember her having, it was about constituent casework. She was explaining that some people were calling her and wanting her to do casework, and I'm like, Congresswoman, why? You need to tell them no. You need to tell them that you have retired and that we can handle this. But again, it goes to show you, it wasn't about the title for her. It was always just about making sure that she could render service. And so I will say that she spent even her last days, so long as she could, still working to give to other people, even though she wasn't officially in office at that time.
Yeah, what you're saying, she just never quit working. She never stopped.
She didn't.
You described her in your statement as a quiet storm.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So I think people think of me as maybe a loud storm. But storms are considered to be something of a force, something of a phenomenon, something that is sometimes described as supernatural. And that is what she was. She believed in governance and good governance and working across the aisle. And while you may not really understand how things came to fruition, just know she was working behind the scenes. She was getting it done. And so anyone that knows her would never really describe her as a loud person, but definitely an effective person, and definitely someone who, when she spoke, you knew what it meant. It didn't have to be loud. You knew what it meant, and you got to moving. And so she was able to accomplish a lot of things under, no matter who the presidents were, right? So she served for 30 years, and she would often talk about the fact that the majority of her 30 years, she served in the minority. But even in serving in the minority, she was able to get things done. So one of the things that she stressed to me was working across the aisle. And I can't say that the average person in the district probably sees that side of it. But, we just got our first bill out of the House right before we were released on this last recess. And it was a bipartisan bill. It's a bill that was bipartisan out of the House. It's my bill. And there's a Republican colleague here in North Texas that co-led it with me. And then it is being carried in the Senate by Senator Cornyn. I wouldn't necessarily be so dug in and even believing that I could accomplish some of these things because of how toxic it's become in DC, but for some of my conversations with her and her telling me about really some of the most unlikely suspects as being her partners, and how she would wear some of these people down. And so she was a quiet storm. I'm definitely loud, but I am committed to making sure that I continue to be a storm and that I continue to be effective for the people here in North Texas.
And she also represented a different era, right? I mean, she grew up at a time when schools and businesses and everything was segregated. I mean, her accomplishments, there were so many things that were against her and people of her generation, but what an amazing testimony she is to the power to just not let those forces stop you.
That's exactly right. And one of the things that she would share with me in some of our conversations was, you could feel how heavy it was on her, the disappointment that she had about the trajectory of our country, because the Eddie Bernice Johnsons of the world, the John Lewises of the world, the Elijah Cummings of the world, even the Jim Clyburns of the world, they came through a time in which they were the first. They were the first of almost everything that they did, and they fought so hard to break these barriers and to create what we always imagined as these smoothly paved roads to progress in this country. And now you see the demolition of those smoothly paved roads that they've been out there paving for quite some time. And you could hear her disappointment. And she said, Congress has changed. And for someone to say that about Congress when they arrived as, you know, one of a very select few Black women in the country to Congress, for her to feel that way and not be saying it as Congress has changed and it's changed for the better, but saying that I've given 50 years of service and 30 of it to Congress, and now it's something different. And she said, I just don't think that it makes sense for me to continue on with the current climate and environment. That says a lot about how bad things have gotten. But, you know, I think that it was important that she choose someone who was young. She used to say, we need somebody who's energetic, because there has to be a generation that is willing to pick up the mantle and inspire and make people believe that we don't have to have terrible roads. We can have these smooth and beautifully paved roads that the Eddie Bernice Johnsons of the world started working on years ago, because that's what we deserve. We deserve better. We deserve the best in this country. And the best thing that I can do for her legacy is continue to fight for better and the best every single day that I'm serving, whether it's in committee or whether it's in the legislation that I author, or whether it's in my pushback against the regressive, oppressive, and depraved hearts that we are sometimes seeing in power in Congress. And that is what I plan to do.
Okay. And one more question. What do you think the message was of her life?
If I had to say that there was one thing that Eddie will be known for, it's going to be her tireless work. In my statement, while I didn't elaborate on it, Eddie Bernice used to watch hearings on the state level while serving as the chair in Congress. I mean, I don't know how and when she found the time, but anybody that's very close with her, whether it's former Senator Ellis, who's a county commissioner down in Houston, he will tell you that she didn't sleep, and she didn't. The majority of our conversations took place really late at night. And I think that that's something that we can all benefit from, is this idea that hard work really will pay off. While you may not get exactly where you're trying to go, you will get somewhere. And so if we continue to just fight for and work really hard for what it is that we believe in, we can truly accomplish whatever the goal is, whether it's in politics or outside of politics. Definitely, she was always pushing for everything in the science world, whether it was healthcare, whether it was NASA, or whether it was, you know, technology overall. She was huge when it came to chips, obviously, authoring the chips bill. Just make sure that you always put in the hard work. And regardless of the fact that you may be quiet about the hard work, people will recognize your work, and they will honor that work, and they will honor your legacy.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And, you know, my condolences. She is an amazing testament. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Tanya. Thank you so much.